we had a plan to talk about gratitude today, and then something happened in the world to get our attention. And I changed what my plan was so that we could talk about what that is like. Because it turns out that there is absolutely a relationship between our personal experiences, which get our attention, and the universal ones, the collective ones, which also get our attention. We've done a lot of reading and praying already, and no doubt many of us have done some reflecting and dialoguing with others, given the fact that something big enough to get our attention did take place in France a couple of days ago. And the interesting thing, the correlation, I believe, is this. Each of us has had, at this point in our lives, more than one experience that has pulled us from our reverie, that has pulled us out of our day-to-day routines, our day-to-day habits of being, which by their very nature do not involve a lot of consciousness. They are mechanical repetitions of choices that we made yesterday or years ago. So most of us, even if they are excellent choices, such as putting on our seatbelts or brushing our teeth or locking the front door when we leave or whatever they are, most of us have a lot of habits in our lives. We also have other habits. We have habits that we just call daily routines, what we do after we get done with work on any given day, or after we're complete with whatever it is that we wanted to accomplish. I have them. I have a modern version of sitting around the fire and doing storytelling, which is called sitting in front of the television and watching a story about someone else's life. Now, I do try to choose stories that inspire me and educate me in some way, and I admit that I also use those as a way of letting go. So I have a habit of doing that. I have habits about foods that I like to eat, to celebrate this occasion, or to mourn that one, or to cure this distraction, or whatever, to delight in. All kinds of habits, and we all have them. So the interesting thing about a pronounced event that demands our attention is this. It is the thing that is louder than and bigger than all of those daily habits of thinking and feeling and speaking and acting that just go on over and over and over again. It is so big that regardless of what we thought we were going to do that day, it demands our attention and gets it. We have a couple people who are not here for a little while because one had a family member who had a stroke, and that changed their plans. And they're coming back, and things are going great. But it was a, this is happening now kind of thing. We have someone else who will be returning, who had a similar experience, recognizing overload, and yet feeling stuck in the habit of saying, I don't have any choice, I just need to soldier on and push harder, etc. Fell and broke her kneecap. She's getting some rest now. And she said, you know, I said I needed a break. And this is not to make light of these things that happen in our lives that demand our attention, that sometimes are about life and death for us or somebody that we love, and sometimes they are of a subtler or milder nature. But the way that this works is that something happens that requires our attention, and at this level demands it. And that is because the earlier signals were drowned out by that busyness. The The still small voice was not heard amidst the din. The earlier warning signs to slow down or make some kind of a change were not heard. And there are bigger things going on that we know nothing about. We can't possibly take responsibility for it all or explain it all away. But let's just say that there are some things in life that happen because the earlier, quieter invitations to take some time and break free from our habits and re-examine and make new choices, it just couldn't happen. So sometimes something big happens that gets our attention. And it creates an opportunity, whether it immobilizes you in some way, it creates an opportunity to reflect and say, here I thought I knew what was most important for me to be doing this day or this time in my life, and now this is calling me to question, am I sure? Is there something that I've been missing, not listening to, that's calling to be expressed and experienced by means of me? Because what we are doing is we are embodying and expressing and experiencing on behalf of that which created us all. So we have that personal experience of it. Now, what happens when something happens all the way across the world, in our collective body, in our collective affairs, that collectively pulls us out of our reverie and asks us to just stop and to reflect for a moment? There is a connection. Most of all because we are one, because we are connected and we cannot avoid that. We can find comfort in perceived distance and say, oh, well, that happened in somebody else's backyard. And yet on a spiritual level, we all have the same backyard. On a spiritual level, there is no distance between us. And so the empathic part of us, the part of us that is real and true and untouchable, feels, when we let ourselves feel it, feels what's happening over there to somebody we don't know. And the opportunity for us is different in that we are not in the middle of it. I am not one of those people who lost my life on Friday in Paris. I don't even know one of those people who did. And yet, if I am willing, as a spiritual being, to recognize my oneness with them, I have an opportunity to participate in an awakening to wholeness and the restoration of wholeness, of healing, of peace. Because our natural state is one of harmony and unity. And so when we see something else showing up, it is because one of us in the human family is out of alignment with that natural state and expressing from that other place. It's very interesting when something big happens like this to get our attention. And we speak with friends, and we hear people if we listen to the news, or we see them if we watch television, or we read about them perhaps in a newspaper, saying what we ought to do. And the response is different in this group of people. The response is more difficult than retaliation. It requires more discipline than name-calling. It requires greater strength than just being dualistic, divided, and polarized. It asks us to own that something happened in the human family of our body, the human family of our collective affairs, that is asking us to wake up. It is asking us to wake up and to turn off our televisions, put down our books, stop whatever we're up to, and reflect even though it didn't happen in our living rooms. Because we have a powerful opportunity in our physical distance. We are much more able to be present in knowing peace amidst the chaos than those who are in the thick of it. That's why there's more than one of us on the planet. That's more than where there's always more than one of us in any relationship, because one of us can be in a place of forgetting and not knowing and doing from a place of that. And another of us, very close by, can be in remembrance and help the other to awaken. There's a lot going on, and it's going to take every one of us to bring about that awakening and to bring about those changes. So just like you have situations in your own life that demand your attention, there is something going on universally that is saying, wake up. We are being called to discover how we can be present in a new way. How we can break some habits of thinking and feeling, of speaking, of perception, of memory, of expectancy and expectation, of action, of belief. And in so doing, we can lift up the collective. There's a saying in this teaching that healing is revealing. It is the revelation of that wholeness which already exists. It is uncovering the magnificence, the beauty, the truth, the harmony that is already within each one of us. And it will take each of us poised precisely where we are and as we are to be one small yet great part of that. None of us will do the exact same thing about it. Some of you who have been here for a couple of weeks lately have noticed that we've been playing with this opportunity to invite people to speak and to share from their hearts, from their minds. And I want to invite you right now to consider this. We have done the Michael Beckwith visioning process many times throughout the life of this center. And I took it yesterday and just changed one word. And so one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this. And I'm going to invite you to take it home. And to get into a meditative place. And ask these questions. Not with your brain and not of your intellect. But with your heart and of the infinite. And I'm also going to close my part of this message in the same way. And then we're going to find out what is alive in you when it comes to the realization that something is ready to change. So here's what the questions are going to be, both for your visioning process and for our dialogue in just a moment. The first one is, what is Spirit's highest vision for me as a peacemaker? What is Spirit's highest vision for me as a peacemaker? The second one is, what are my gifts? What is my part? Remember, we are uniquely poised to hear the voice of the infinite and to respond to what is happening in our lives from wholeness, which in turn will be a restoration, a healing. It will most definitely bring about peace. The third question is, what do I release for the fulfillment of this vision? Every time, individually and collectively, when something big happens, we get to let go, don't we? We get to let go of something that we have been holding on to that has completed its purpose. It either needs renewal or blessing and release to make room for something new. Daniel Nahmod says that spirit, that life, empties our hands to make room for something better. And so that times like this, whether they are personal or collective, when our routines are interrupted and we are demanded to pay attention and to choose anew and to let go of what is no longer serving, our hands are emptied and a way is made for something new to emerge because the time is ripe. We are ready. Circumstances support this change right here and now. And so the next question that we will be asking in our private meditation is, what do I embrace for the fulfillment of this vision? It may be a very bold dream in you that some people tell you is crazy. You can't do that. You don't have enough time or money or talent or whatever it is. And yet it will not let you go. So what bold thing do you embrace for the fulfillment of this vision? And the last one is simply to be open to what else is emergent. We are already equipped, really, to always know when things are changing in our experience. We are equipped to recognize what, and we are equipped to recognize where to go, what to do next. It comes from right here, not between our ears. We use that mechanism once we've had the recognition here. We already know. So I'm going to ask Rick, actually, if you'll pass these out. They're for everyone to take home and to discover what kind of a peacemaker you are. Because you are a member of the collective. And there is something that you'll be moved to do in your daily routine that is new. That brings a little more of that wholeness, a little more of that harmony, and a little more of that peace to the life that you are living and the lives with which you connect and the collective of which you are part. And so right now Rick is going to turn on the microphone. And this is your opportunity to share briefly an example in your life where you have been invited through something like what did I do? I had a knee problem a couple of years ago and had to stop. Some of us get migraines or whatever it is. You may have a situation in your life that has invited you to stop and reflect and has given you a gift of some sort. And the other thing is that what happened on Friday in Paris? Did that cause you to pause? Did that cause you to think, what could I do? And what was that answer? What was that answer?